So with the previous video we looked at, when it comes to the full lineup, I spoke about how, Slash Team, when they get their typing, in terms of a new character, Kenpachi is going to be in the mix, and it kind of, in a way, kind of puts you in the same position to how Thrust is kind of in right now, because realistically, as it stands, we're kind of, well, one thing which I should just get out of the way and say, look, at the end of the day, summon for who you will, right? Because obviously with what I stated for Gin, being a Thrust DPS, kind of making it so that it eases up the option for you to more so cater to the Spirit team if that's something that you're interested in, since the Spirit team need all the help that they can get. Now, obviously, if you're a fan of Gin, do as you please, because I'm in the same boat with Kenpachi. Do I need Kenpachi if he's in the Slash team? I've got it fully duped out. Ichigo, no, but you best believe I'm gonna be grabbing my boy Kenpachi. He's an absolute menace, and I want him. So, as it is, he's a fan favorite, especially for myself, and so do what you will, especially when Gin releases. Now, to be fair, there is some hope behind on what they could do with Gin, and I'll get into that in just a second, but that's something that I just kind of want to briefly mention, because even though he is a Thrust user and he is DPS, it would be more so advisable to focus on the blue units, just so that you've got your account covered. But again, Gin's your fan favorite. If you're a fan, hey, I wish you all the best of luck. Do as you please, enjoy, have fun. That's how it is. You don't need to always be strategic about it, and plus we don't know how things are going to turn out in terms of characters when they're gone, i.e. when Toshiro releases, what happens to Holification Ichigo? So we really don't know if there's going to be a I'm sure they'll do rerun banners and pick up banners and whatnot, so we'll have to wait and see on that one in the future. But anyway, coming back to the main question at hand, and that is the Thrust team, right? Because right now, as I've specified and I've spoken about, to say Thrust banner outside of Toshiro might be an easy skip, only because, as you guys are watching right now, with the Thrust boys themselves, they're doing a phenomenal job in terms of applying a disgusting amount of DOT. That's the Thrust strategic play right there, on what they have built in their kit, and that is the DOT play that these two boys can apply to kind of do as much damage as possible whilst kind of bleeding the enemy out. Now, it seems that the theme is continuing on with Gin. Now, as much as I said that, out of the plethora of characters that's releasing, you can only pick and choose on what character that you want, right? Especially for free to play, because unfortunately, currency-wise, you don't get an absurd amount to actually tackle every single character, unless you get lucky and you pull them first multi. Fair play, but you're gonna have to pick and choose. To be fair, they could actually release Gin in a way where he's DPS, does an immense amount of damage, because I suspect that he will probably be the best DPS for the Thrust team. There's no way in hell they're gonna drop him and it be in the same boat as Ikaku. It's just like, that's not how it works. A new character releases and they're always slightly more superior than the characters that we have. That's just how it is, right? It's the sell point. What if they made it so that he has some form of increase of DOT damage, as so in a way he's kind of now playing that support role? Because I'm gonna keep it real, when it comes to the Thrust team right now, obviously Urahara is the main support for that team. Outside of that, they don't have a support. But for the most part, the boys themselves, when it comes to the DOT play, that's what I kind of push more for. When it comes to not having a support, I rely on the boys to do as much damage as they can, as they should, but also kind of working off by stacking that DOT. That's kind of like my debuff, I guess, yeah, right, to kind of get as much damage as possible and kind of bleed them out. So shout out to League Gacha 92. I mean, I'll put the tweet up right now so you guys can see. So we've got a little bit of info on both Gin and as well as Rangoku, which is interesting. So when it comes to Gin's max level, so Gin fast approaches the enemy and performs multiple slashes. He then releases the Bankai state and launches a fatal strike much faster than the speed under the Shinkai state, dealing damage equal to 3,625%. So he's going to do some insane damage, whilst inflicting 50 impale scales. So still keeping with that theme of that DOT play. Now, I'm curious to know on what the impale scales are. I mean, clearly it's going to be some damage over time. That's just, again, as we know how the Thrust team works, but a part of me does hope that they apply some form of amplification to where if the enemy does have a DOT on them, let's say a certain amount maybe, then it does like maybe ×2, ×3, right? Maybe Impale Scale has some form of amplification. If they apply that on, then I think the way things are looking with the Thrust team, it will be screw the support, just apply as much DOT, so then obviously it'll be Kaku, Tozen, as well as Gin together. To be fair, that team alone sounds scary AF, I'm not gonna lie. So I truly do hope that with Gin, that he's 100% going to be doing a lot of damage. That's something that I'm not going to take away. But I do hope that obviously with DOT play that he's playing, that he has some form of amplification for the DOT that we apply on towards the enemy. That'd be pretty cool if they do that. So that's something that is actually giving me hope, and it actually will probably put a lot more interest back into Gin to being like, right, if you really want to elevate that Thrust team, it is now looking like that DOT play is on a whole nother level if they can apply some form of, as I've said, amplification system onto him. Now, they don't have to apply it onto him because there's an SR character coming along with him, and that is of course Rangiku. She is a support unit. The only little bit of information that we have, as you guys see on screen, is that she does increase damage of thrust users by 17.6% for the teammate. So there we go, there's that mono support complete. That's the one thing that we were waiting on. The only thing that Thrust was missing was a support, so that way we can have a complete mono Thrust team, everyone doing their role. So she's an SR, so I'm not expecting, well, to be fair, with where SRs are at right now, support wise, I mean, it's still pretty effective. I mean, Yachiru is still, I mean, even though I've got Urahara, there are times where I actually still utilize Yachiru for my Slash team. Obviously, Mom is going to be vital for the Spirit team. Strike, I've not even built up Nemu, but she's there. Yeah, so I'm hoping some good things from Thrust. Again, if they want to apply some form of amplification system, or some ×2 for the DOT play on Rangiku, then again, that's going to make her even more worth it too. But she's an SR, so I suspect she'll, well, it'll be an easy character to pull, let's just say that, of course. But I do hope that through the events and whatnot, again, we'll hopefully see with Toshiro, as I've mentioned before, hopefully they make these SR characters, at least maybe like the first copy, accessible for free. I think that'd be a nice little touch to have for the game itself. And then, of course, if you want to get the dudes, that's when summoning comes into play. But I assume with the SR characters, they'll be in the overall banners even going forward, right? Because they're just slightly lower rarity. So it makes sense. But that's kind of where my thought process is at in terms of the Thrust team. So, you know, as much as I said, you know, when it comes to the lineup of characters, you know, the Thrust side of it is kind of looking like a bit of a skippable one if you have to pick and choose. But developers do things right. And I guess it really comes down to on what typing are you trying to build up. I mean, it's kind of stating the obvious, like, okay, Spirit needs the build up on everyone's account. That's just stating the obvious. But if it is something that you're interested in, and if you are focusing on Thrust, and for example, if Thrust is your best team, then obviously when Gin and Rangiku release, then fair play, that's something that you might want to cater to just to kind of elevate your best team more. So i.e., like myself, my best element is Slash, right? That's a given. So when Kabaji drops, you best believe I'm about to make my Slash team even more of a menace and even more broken, since that's my main mono team that kind of pushes the content. And to be fair, if you do have a built-up Thrust team, especially with Tozen and Kaku, they are two of the best units that the game has to offer. Obviously, Slash is kind of like the top dog in terms of what they have, right? Urahara, Ichigo, Byakuya, right? Best team. But Kaku and Tozen are not far behind, and again, once we get that Thrust support in, I mean, well, I don't think they'll take the #1 spot that easily, but it'll make them an even more of a devastating team, and I think you'll be in the same position, and I think you already are in the same position to be like, kind of powering through the current content that we have right now. How the Slash team and Holification Ichigo is kind of pushing through content regardless of, you know, what typing is required. You can still effectively do that with Kaku and Tozen, because again, that DOT play is devastating. So that's kind of where my mindset is at right now. So as much as it's looking like, you know, Gin and Rangiku's banner being kind of like the more of a skippable one, which it still kind of is, but if done right, the incentive might be there to go all in, just to kind of elevate and make that DOT play that even more better. So we'll see how it plays. If they do, and again, I think the huge sell point is if they apply that amplification system on the DOT play, I think that's just going to graft so many people. That's going to be insane if they do that. So I'm hoping that that is the case. That's going to be the play that I'm going to be hoping for that they make. If not, then we'll see how Gin plays out and his damage output, of course. If it is somewhat near Ikaku, then... And plus Tozen does a fantastic amount of damage. I can't even take away. His DOT plays phenomenal too, so it'll be interesting to see on how much of a far more superior character Gin becomes as a thrust user, and on top of that, what Rangiku could kind of provide in terms of the support play. I mean, Urahara will probably still be the bigger play unless there's more on offer for the mono thrust team with Rangiku then. I mean, you guys know who we're going to be going for then. But yeah, that's just kind of like my thought process and all. But I'll let the fight play out right now. As you guys can see, we are going all on in using my thrust team. Urahara just providing support for the time being until things change up in 3 weeks to come. But yeah, that's just kind of my thought process of all, boys. But again, at the end of the day, if you are if you're a fan of Gin, go for it. Enjoy, have fun. He's going to be an amazing unit for the thrust team. His DPS power has to far exceed what we have right now, so he's going to be a formidable character without a shadow of a doubt. But I just hope that they add more onto it, more so catering to the mono team, that being the DOT play. So that's just my thought process, but you best believe Kenpachi, I'm going all in. Even with Grimmjow, because apparently Grimmjow's going to be a thrust character. I'm going for Grimmjow. Bro, Kenpachi and Grimmjow, I don't care. If you're a fan of a said character, go for them, is what I say.